Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Frayed Hero here, and I'm gonna deck profile my Vanquisher deck profile. Just jump straight into it. So I'm running two starters, one of each of more or less the Vanquisher ones. Depends on the matchup for which starter you're running. If you know you're gonna play against a deck that will let you actually retire and bind their cards, then you just stick with the new starter. But if you're playing against something like Pale Moon, who are just like no, you run the other starter, so you can get your Thunderstrike going. So at least if you G-guard, you can get value out of it and speed up your Thunderstriking. Triggers, standard 4 heals, running for the Vanquisher crit, 4 Jin crits, and then the slot that I'm always on the fence about, I'm still running 4 draws. I sometimes wish they were stands, I sometimes wish they were crits. I can never be satisfied with the slot. I stick with draws because Narukami have like no draw engine, so it's the only way to get like cards to your hand, and it's the only way to get your rear guards effectively. I mean, if you just draw a bunch of triggers, you're kind of in an awkward spot, and then at least this will try to help you dig for rears if you get them. The stands are also great because of the counter charging, and it does add a card to your hand, but it's not when it triggers. But it also helps you get those attack extensions. It's just a really weird thing for Narukami in my opinion, where you want to run all 3 of those triggers. It just depends on your matchups, your situations, what you can trigger, what you can't trigger, and all that unfortunate, awkward stuff. Moving on to grade 1s for Mighty Bolts, because we're Stride deck, we want to be on Vanquisher, we want to Stride. 4 of the unflipping PGs, it's like the only consistent way to countercharge, because the stand doesn't work against stuff like Magia most of the time, since they don't usually have a board and stuff like that, so it's really awkward. If they don't commit, you can't unflip, so this is like almost guaranteed if you have one in the drop anyway. 4 Chain Bolts because he accelerates Thunderstrike. I wish there was easier ways to get Thunderstrike. It's also cool because with Bulwark you can retire on their turn and actually get power boosts on your Vanquisher, though it is still awkward time with Bulwark, and I don't know why Narukami cards are so hard to use. And then we're running 2 of the Monks. Monks are there because it'll help to ensure your VMAX hits all 5 rear guards, assuming you know resist and stuff like that. If not, it's just a solid 9k attacker in the front row, so that's not so bad. But yeah, it's just there for the extra extension. I mean, you could run the Rising Phoenix for more drawing if you want to do that route. Depends on your build, because Soul, you can burn through your Soul quickly in this deck, or you may never use your Soul. I run the 1-hit Jin, or whatever, it's 1 strike, 2 hits, so I need Soul for him, so I can't afford to Rising Phoenix most of the time, so that's why that's there. Grade 2s. Playing 4 Chitara because Chitara is amazing, helps you get Thunderstrike before GB, and people always want to guard it, so it's a really good card. Kind of awkward when you have to ride it, kind of awkward that it can't swing at rears, but it's still an amazing common, and probably should have been at least a rare, not hollow, in my opinion. 4 Voltage Horns because it's another Thunderstrike accelerator. It's one of the best ways to get it in my opinion, outside of like your on strides and stuff, because it is very reliable, and it, you know, gets around them trying to dismal, depending, you know, like, because if you only have the 1 rear and they're planning on dismaling you, like on a VMAX turn or something, you can just swing with Voltage Horn first, retire bind, and then they have nothing, so they can't like Rafana you or anything like that. It's really nice. And then I'm running 3 Rock Climbs. Rock Climb was like a last minute switch. I was going to run the other grade 2, the one that gets power for cards in bind zone, but my friend Grant over there, you know, Mr. Sexy's Pizza, was like, dude, just why don't you run Rock Climb? I'm like, you're right, actually. And then the way I saw it is like when you VMAX, this is also another thing to get around the players trying to like use G guards to survive your VMAXs, so then this accelerates and gets more in the main phase and not in the battle phase. And you know, it can trigger with your starter as well, so pretty solid. I mean, I wish the new grade 2 we got worked differently. The fact that it's only a Vanguard skill, and the fact that it only hits front row is just really awkward because not everyone's going to rush you. But I mean, if they see you're not running it, then they might rush you, but yeah, I don't know. Really awkward. I wish there was a better grade 2 to run in this deck. This deck actually needs a lot of things, but Bushiroad won't give it to us. And grade 3s, of course, the 4 Vanquishers, and as I mentioned, I run the 1-hit or 1-strike, 2-hit Jin. I like it because it's basically forcing them to either guard their rear guard or Dismal, or something along those lines. It gets around resist. Arguably, it is great with a stand trigger too, but it's up to you. It's a pretty solid card. You just don't want to ride it. It happens sometimes, which is why I can see why people running Descendant and stuff. But it's really awkward in Vanquisher in general. Just waiting for a Vanquisher G. 2017 Bushiroad, please. Make this deck consistent. And that's the main deck. G-Zone, of course, 4 voltages, have to play 4. It's like one of the best cards in this deck if you're using it as like a finisher, or if you're just using it to turbo through your VMAX. It's whatever, it's just a really good card. You have to run the 4. VMAX I run 2 of because VMAX is a solid card depending on your matchup. He is like, you know, the free damage if you play it right. If you can't, then it's like whatever, because he's also like your turbo, you know, your brawler turbo, where he can more or less punch the field, which is really nice to get around resist units that are like being a pest. Like if they're playing Skyros the boss, you know, you can at least kill their rear guards, so that's always fun. And then, of course, 4 Conquest still, because he's a solid stride. If they don't play cards, you punish them for getting plus 10Ks on your front row. And it's a nice backup if you don't want to burn through your voltages or your VMAX if it doesn't feel right, and you just need a solid power lane, or if you just don't even have enough power from binds yet. Solid card for like mid-game, even late game if you somehow ran out of strides, or if you had a G-assist, you know, situations like that. Solid card. And then rounding off the strides, 1 Sea Breeze, because we like to Sea Breeze. And you know, people will play differently against you if you don't have the Sea Breeze. Like, they might get greedy game 2 or 3 if they know you don't have it. And then 1 Zoros. This is a awkward slot. I think I like Zoros though, because there are some times in matchups where you don't actually want to go into your voltage on your first stride, where you actually want to try to get the slow game going and getting to retire bind, or just the binds in general, to accelerate your Thunderstrike without using voltage, and actually using voltage as his own standalone and not like relying on VMAX turbo. So that's like kind of neat. And if not, if you like have to G-assist and you want second, you just like G-assist away these 2 cards. It's like whatever, it's not bad. And then lastly, G-Guards, running 2 Bulwarks. It's your plus 10k shield card, really nice. Its retire effect is always kind of awkward, but if you do get it off, you can get your chain bolts and your Vanquisher GB2s to go off on their turn, so it's pretty nice. And then the fact that it's a plus 10 is probably the best part about it, since Narukami doesn't get a lot of advantage, and saving cards in hand to guard is always a great feeling. And then one of, I don't remember your name, the one that's from Fighter's Collection, gets the plus 5 at Thunderstrike 1. Just a decent like throwaway guard, or just if you need the extra 5 and you want to save your Bulwark for later without, you know, having to guard more or anything. And then 1 Dismal for the mirror match. If you actually in that situation, you can Dismal your rear guard. Also against Laurel if he wants to bully your rear guards. So like Dismal's okay, it's like a throwaway G guard in other situations where you just need a 15 shield and you know you don't need it specifically for them. It's also kind of nice though, sometimes you do want to keep your rear guard on board because you just don't have a lot of cards in hand. So protecting a rear guard is not terrible in this deck, and that's the entire deck. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the comments down below. See you guys next time.